Hello YouTube, this is Let's Talk Horror and welcome back to another video. Okay guys, so today I'm coming here with some rather disappointing news. I didn't have a video planned for today and I'm recording pretty late at night where I am. There was some supposedly big horror news coming out regarding the Friday the 13th franchise tonight and some very disappointing news. Now if you don't know, I am a Halloween and Friday the 13th guy. In fact, as I've said on this channel before, in some videos, I've often said that as much as I love Michael Myers and as much as I love Halloween and as much as I've talked about Halloween on this channel, I actually, as a franchise as a whole, I think Friday the 13th might be my franchise. I think as a franchise as a whole, as far as quality goes, it might be my preferred slasher franchise. I think I enjoy more movies in that franchise as much as I love Halloween, as much as I love Michael Myers. And as we've known for the last couple of years, there is finally something Friday the 13th related in the works. A Friday the 13th TV show called Crystal Lake happening at Peacock, or supposedly happening at Peacock. And the showrunner was going to be Bryan Fuller, and this was announced all the way back in November of 2022. And if that wasn't exciting enough, A24 of all studios was going to be the partner behind this. And I'll even say, I think the fact that it was a TV show actually had me more excited, if at all possible, than what a movie would have, because TV is something that Friday the 13th had never gone into, and TV was a new avenue that the franchise hadn't explored. And the fact that Bryan Fuller, of all people, was the mind behind it, or was going to be the mind behind it, and the fact that A24 was involved just had me so curious about what this is going to look like, and I couldn't have been more excited. Well, we sadly got some news on that tonight. Now, take this with a pinch of salt. I should say, before we dive into this, that Bloody Disgusting has not picked up this story, or any of the other big boys like Variety or Deadline, but it is coming from one entertainment insider. So I don't know how much to believe of this. Maybe by the time this is actually up, and I'm, probably tomorrow because it's late here is when this will be up, but by the time this is actually up, maybe things will have changed. But as of right now, Bloody Disgusting has not picked it up. As of right now, Deadline or Variety has not picked it up. This is coming from one insider by the name of Jeff Schneider, entertainment insider apparently. And this is from the Friday the 13th franchise website, who has an article on it. And here's what they say. Quote unquote, it's been a real quiet on the news front for Peacock and A24's Crystal Lake streaming series that was announced on Halloween 2022. It was a huge deal coming on the heels of the resolved litigation of the franchise rights between Victor Miller and Horror Inc. The renewed hope that fans could get a new project soon was exciting. However, there has been no official announcements for the show since January 2023, and something was just revealed that is extremely disappointing. Entertainment reporter Jeff Schneider just dropped some unsettling news that A24 has pulled the plug on the Crystal Lake show. Here's what he says. I'm hearing that A24 has pulled the plug on Crystal Lake, its planned Peacock series based on the Friday the 13th franchise featuring mass killer Jason Voorhees. Bryan Fuller was due to executive produce the horror series. It's unclear whether this is a permanent decision or a temporary one, as A24 had no comment. Perhaps Peacock will help the trades shed more light on this project, which was announced back in 2022. So there it is. That's what we know. The rumor going around right now is that A24 is out on the Crystal Lake show. And if this is true, and I'm going to get into why I have some doubts on this in a minute, but if this is true, I mean, it's not entirely surprising, sadly, because this is Friday the 13th, and since 2009, this franchise, for whatever reason, was cursed. In the early to mid 2010s, there were three, maybe four of the movie projects that were greenlit and then just had the plug pulled on them abruptly. There was the CW show of all shows that I was excited about back in the day that had the plug pulled on it abruptly. Remember that? The show that was supposed to be happening at CW? That got trashed abruptly. And then, of course, we finally actually get a video game that is a love letter to the fans, a love letter to the franchise. And then that goes away because of the lawsuit. And then, of course, the lawsuit freezes anything for years. And then finally, once we get that resolved, we get this announcement of a TV show happening at Peacock with A24 and Brian Fuller, of all people. You know, Hannibal was great. And then, of course, the strikes shut that down and shut down Hollywood for most of 2023. And now this. Now, in that time, A24 has reportedly pulled their involvement. I'm just depressed, man. It's so sad being a fan of this franchise and being a diehard fan of this franchise, because it felt like we were finally going to get our time in the spotlight again. It felt like we were finally going to get our moment, and as Friday the 13th fans and as horror fans, and of course this has to happen. Of course. And it's so depressing, because this is the one thing I was looking forward to. Again, another thing that kind of tipped me off is, like, I get the strikes happened, but the strikes ended in November of 2023, and we had gotten no updates for quite a long time on this. And I always felt that was peculiar, and I know I'm just going to mention this briefly. I know there were some allegations made against Brian Fuller, and if you don't know what that is, you can Google it. You know, I don't want to really talk about that here. I wondered what kind of impact that had on the show. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's very, very disappointing, extremely disappointing. We'll see if Bloody Disgusting or another big boy confirms it, but it's just very depressing. Now, here's my one silver lining, if you will. First of all, look, I'm not trying to slander anyone, but I've never heard of Jeff Schneider. But I don't think I've ever heard of him, and I honestly don't know how credible this person is. This seems to just be a random person who calls themselves an entertainment insider. If any of you know how credible he is, maybe he is very credible. I don't know. But, yeah. So the fact that Bloody Disgusting hasn't picked this up, or Variety or Deadline hasn't picked this up, it gives me hope that maybe this is just one of those rumors that a scooper comes up with. Like, remember that rumor about A24 and Halloween that I made a video on, and that exploded, that, oh my God, A24 had the rights to a Halloween TV show, and that never happened, and that was debunked within hours. I'm hoping that's what this is too. I'm hoping that's what happens here, and maybe by the morning or sometime tomorrow, this will be debunked and we'll hear the Crystal Lake TV show is still full going. And another thing that makes me suspicious is Brian Fuller, and you can look this up. It's called the Scream Dreams podcast. Not sponsored or anything like that, but he just went on the Scream Dreams podcast on an episode that released on April 17th, and he said at the end of that interview on that podcast that Crystal Lake was set to film in July. So this was just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, guys. This was like less than 3 weeks ago. He said confidently that it was filming in July. So I'm still very suspicious. I'm at least a little suspicious. But yeah, if this is true, this is another gut punch to horror fans and Friday the 13th fans that have been waiting 15 years for a new movie or a TV show. As I said, if anything, I was even more excited that we were getting a TV show, because that's, a format and an area that the franchise hadn't explored before. And having it be done by Brian Fuller was exciting, and having it by, A24 involved was intriguing. And now that none of that might be happening, it's a gut punch, man. It's a gut punch. So maybe by the time this video is up, we'll know more. But yeah, this is very depressing news if you're a horror fan and if you're a Friday the 13th fan. I was hoping to get more updates on the show so I could actually talk about it in some videos and break down some stuff. And sadly, the one update we've gotten as of right now is that Crystal Lake the Peacock show might be dead because A24 at the very least has pulled their involvement, at least temporarily. So I hate to come on here with the bad news, but it is what it is. But I want to thank you for tuning in today, guys, and take care, and I will see you guys later. Comment and subscribe.